Welcome to Uncloseted Conversations. Even if you stumbled upon this channel by accident, you are welcome here. The stories here are from my heart, from my soul, from my pen to your ears. I hope that you will stay a little longer and open yourself to the magic of storytelling. Here I write fiction, and though not always aligning with reality, it still tugs at heartstrings. Stories are escapes and sometimes a balm to the soul. So, enjoy your time here, and if reality presses down too loud and too hard, come knock at the door, come in, take a seat, grab a coffee, and just exhale. These are veil-bound stories, and the space is free and non-judgmental. Sit back, earphones or pods in, and let's listen to another exquisite romance. The shape of you in my life. Some loves are built in silence. Some are drawn in forever. Chapter 1. The Letter. I felt my soul leave my body. My heart stalled. My lungs forgot their purpose. Blood roared in my ears and my knees betrayed me, folding as if they'd never known how to stand. The world tilted, spun, lost its balance. The letter slipped from my fingers. I followed it to the floor. Tears burned hot and fast, blurring the words as I reached for it again. The page trembled in my hands. Ink bled where my tears landed, the letters softening, smudging, dissolving as if they, too, couldn't survive what they were saying. Bella, I am leaving. I'll be staying with a colleague for a few days. I don't know how to look at you every day and love you in silence. It's too much. Please don't contact me. I need time to deal with this. Our friendship means the world to me, but my feelings for you are slowly killing me. Blake. To understand how I ended up on my apartment floor, clutching a letter that felt like a goodbye I never agreed to, you need to go back 10 years. My name is Arabella Calder. Bella, to those who know me well. 10 years ago, I was, and still am, painfully introverted. The kind of person who got lost on her own university campus because asking for directions felt more terrifying than wandering in circles. It was on one of those days that I ran into Blake Hayden. Literally. She was sharp and composed, confidence worn like it was stitched into her skin. She knew where she was going. She knew who she was. Everything I wasn't. She walked me to my architecture class, which, cruelly, turned out to be right next to her business lecture. We talked. Easily. Like something clicking into place. When we parted, she stopped me. Wait. Take my number. Call me instead, she said, smiling wide. Your track record with finding things is tragic. That smile ruined me. Our friendship grew without effort. Blake was bright and loud and endlessly social. I was content with silence, books, and my dorm room becoming my entire universe. Somehow, we worked. The years blurred forward. I became an architect. Blake became a financial analyst. We both landed in Toronto, and she decided we should live together. So, I can make sure you don't wander off and disappear, she'd said. I'm not that bad, I'd protested. And I mostly work from home. We found a 3-bedroom apartment. The third room became my studio. Drafting tables. Blueprints. A spare chair for the rare days she worked from home and claimed she was being productive. 6 years into our friendship, we knew each other's rhythms. Her coffee. 1 sugar. Oat milk. No conversation before the first cup. Winter over summer. Cuddles over sweat. She'd curl into me on the couch, close enough that I could feel her warmth, breathe in my lavender shampoo. The same one she kept stealing. What Blake didn't know was that I'd been in love with her since the day I ran into her on campus. I buried it deep. Locked it down. Fort Knox would have taken notes. I watched her get ready for dates. Helped choose dresses. Picked her up when she was stood up. Held her while she cried and cursed the idiots who couldn't see her worth. Inside, I was barely holding together. One word from her would have shattered me. So, I built higher walls. You should date Bells. Find a nice nerdy guy, she'd say. God, Blake. If only you knew. But her friendship mattered more than my feelings. So, I laid another brick. Chapter 2. The Shape of Her Absence. The apartment didn't change when Blake left. That was the cruelest part. Her shoes were still by the door, slightly crooked because she never lined them up properly. Her coat hung on the hook, one sleeve longer than the other, as if she'd just shrugged it off and promised she'd be back in a minute. I told myself I'd give her space. I told myself this was temporary. I told myself a lot of things. Mornings were the worst. My body still moved on instinct, reaching for a second mug, pouring oat milk into coffee I wouldn't drink. I stood in the kitchen too long, waiting for a sound that never came. No humming. No sarcastic commentary about the weather. No Blake. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was invasive. It settled into the corners of the room, heavy and watchful. I worked longer hours, not because I was productive, but because stopping meant noticing. Blueprints blurred together. Lines lost meaning. I stared at my drafting table and wondered how something I loved could suddenly feel pointless without her leaning in, pretending to understand what I was explaining. Evenings stretched thin and endless. The couch felt too big. Winter pressed against the windows, cold and insistent, and there was no warm body curling into my side, no stolen shampoo scent clinging to my sweater. I slept badly if ever I did. Her room stayed untouched. I couldn't bring myself to open the door. The idea of it felt like trespassing, like proof that she was really gone. My phone became a weapon I kept within reach but never touched. Every time it buzzed, my heart lunged. Every time it wasn't her, something in me folded a little tighter. I replayed the letter until I could recite it without looking. I hated it. I loved it. It was the most honest thing anyone had ever given me, and I had no idea what to do with it. I drafted messages in my head and deleted them before they were ever born. I miss you. Too selfish. I'm sorry. For what? Loving her quietly? Please come home. I had no right. Introverts are excellent at surviving in silence. We build entire worlds inside ourselves and learn to live there. But this silence wasn't chosen. This silence was abandonment wrapped in restraint. I wondered how long Blake had been hurting while sitting beside me. How many nights she'd curled into my side while breaking her own heart. How many times she'd almost said something and swallowed it down because she thought I didn't feel the same. The thought hollowed me out. I loved her so fiercely it frightened me. And yet the idea of speaking those words felt like stepping off a cliff blindfolded. What if I was wrong? What if I said it and lost her forever? So I stayed quiet. Days passed. Then more days. And the apartment learned how to breathe without her. That was the moment I knew I was in real trouble. Chapter 3. The Message That Never Sent. I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed. My thumb hovered, uncertain, as if it already knew the damage it could cause. Blake's name sat at the top of the screen. One word. So familiar it hurt. I wondered how something so small could hold the power to undo me completely. I unlocked the phone again. The cursor blinked in the empty message field, patient and expectant. I typed her name first. Blake. Then erased it. I started again. I miss you. Deleted. That felt selfish. Like reaching for her pain and asking her to carry mine too. I tried something safer. I hope you're okay. Deleted. That sounded like a lie. If she were okay, she wouldn't have left. My chest tightened. I forced myself to breathe, counting the seconds the way I always did when the world felt too loud. I typed slower this time, deliberate. I read your letter every day. My finger hesitated over the screen. Was that comfort or cruelty? Deleted. The words came anyway, spilling faster now, reckless. I didn't know. If I had known, I would have done something. I would have. I stopped. Would I? Would I really have said the words if she hadn't forced distance between us? The cursor blinked. Mocking. My hands shook as I typed the truth I'd never allowed myself to see written down. I love you. The room went very still. Seeing it there, naked and undeniable, felt like stepping into open air after years underground. My heart slammed against my ribs, loud enough that I was sure the neighbors could hear it. One sentence. That was all it took to unravel me. I imagined her reading it. Her face. The pause. The fear that would cross her eyes before hope dared to surface. Or worse. Polite rejection. Gentle distance. A door closing forever. My throat burned. I added more, as if explanation could soften the blow. I've loved you for years. I was just too afraid to risk losing you. There it was. The truth, finally breathing. Tears slid down my face, blurring the screen. I wiped them away with the sleeve of my sweater, afraid even salt water might smudge something sacred. My thumb hovered over send. One tap. One moment of courage. One irreversible change. I thought of her letter. Please do not contact me. I need time. I thought of her pain. The quiet kind. The kind that leaves without yelling. I thought of how easily I could become the reason she broke again. So, I did what I always did. I erased myself. The words vanished one by one until the screen was empty again. The cursor blinked. Waiting. I locked the phone and placed it face down on the table, as if it could see me. My heart felt like it had just confessed something it wasn't allowed to want. And somewhere across the city, Blake slept without knowing how close I came to telling her everything. Chapter 4. Blake's POV. I told myself I was doing the right thing. That leaving was kinder than staying. That distance would cauterize the wound instead of reopening it every morning over coffee and quiet smiles. I told myself a lot of things. My colleague's spare room smelled wrong. Too clean. Too empty. No lavender. No warmth clinging to the air. The bed creaked when I sat down, unfamiliar beneath my weight, and for the first time in years, I slept alone without pretending it didn't matter. It mattered. Everything reminded me of her. Not in grand gestures, but in the way my body still moved as if she were there. I turned to comment on nothing. Reached for a phone I wasn't allowed to use. Lay awake listening for sounds that didn't exist. I kept seeing her face when she found the letter. That was the image that nearly broke me. Bella on the floor. Bella reading my words with those careful eyes that always looked like they were bracing for disappointment. Bella blaming herself for something that had been my fault for years. I loved her. God, I loved her. I'd loved her quietly at first, the way you love a best friend before you realize your heart has crossed a line and refuses to come back. Somewhere between shared winters and stolen shampoo, between her humming softly while she worked and the way she trusted me with her silences, I was gone. I tried to date. Tried to pretend my heart hadn't already chosen. No one ever felt right. No one ever felt like home. And Bella was always there. Steady. Safe. Untouchable. She never flinched when I leaned into her. Never pulled away. Never gave me a reason to hope or the mercy to stop. So I left. I stared at my phone more times than I care to admit. Picked it up. Put it down. Picked it up again. Her name was a weight on the screen. Bella. One word. Everything I wasn't supposed to touch anymore. I typed without thinking, the words rushing out like they'd been waiting years for permission. I miss you. I stopped. Deleted it. Too selfish. I tried again. I didn't mean to hurt you. Deleted. I already had. My chest tightened, breath shallow. I sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on my knees, phone glowing like an accusation in my hands. I typed slower this time. If you ever felt anything for me, even a little. I couldn't finish it. The idea of knowing for sure terrified me more than not knowing at all. Because if she didn't feel the same, then leaving had been necessary. And if she did. I swallowed hard. I typed the truth instead. The one I'd never dared to give voice to while she was still within reach. I love you. The words sat there, devastating in their simplicity. I imagined her reading them. Bella, frozen, heart racing, eyes wide with that quiet panic she tried so hard to hide. I imagined her apologizing. Softly. Kindly. Like she always did. I couldn't survive that. So, I did what she always did. I erased it. The screen went blank. Somewhere, at the exact same moment, Bella was probably staring at her own phone, her own unsent confession burning a hole through the silence between us. Neither of us knew. That was the tragedy of it. We loved each other too carefully. I set the phone down and lay back, staring at a ceiling that wasn't ours, breathing through the ache spreading through my chest. I told myself this was temporary. That time would dull it. But deep down, a terrible truth settled into my bones. Some loves don't fade. They wait. Chapter 5, Blake's POV, The Unraveling. By the third day, people started asking if I was sick. I hadn't realized how bad it had gotten until I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror at work. My skin looked dull, stretched too tightly over bone. Shadows clung beneath my eyes like bruises I couldn't explain away. My mouth had forgotten how to rest in anything resembling a smile. I looked like someone who wasn't sleeping, or eating, or living properly. "You okay?" my colleague asked, hovering awkwardly near my desk. "You look tired." Tired. I nodded because it was easier than telling the truth. Easier than saying I left the person I love and now my body doesn't know how to function without her. Food tasted wrong. Coffee did nothing. The world felt muffled, like I was underwater and everyone else was breathing just fine. I started making mistakes. Numbers I'd never miscalculate before blurred together. Emails went unanswered. Meetings slipped past me like ghosts. I caught myself staring at nothing, whole minutes disappearing without explanation. At lunch, I pushed food around my plate and pretended to eat while my stomach curled in on itself. "Blake," someone said gently, "when last did you actually sleep?" I shrugged. Sleep had become a negotiation. My body exhausted, my mind refusing rest. Every time I closed my eyes, Bella appeared. Not crying. Not angry. Just looking at me with that quiet, careful expression that always felt like she was bracing for loss. That look destroyed me. At night, I lay in a borrowed bed, staring at a ceiling I didn't recognize, counting the seconds between breaths. My chest ached constantly, a dull pressure that never quite lifted. I wondered if this was what heartbreak actually did to a person. Not shattering them loudly, but draining them slowly until there was nothing left to give. I stopped fixing my hair. Stopped choosing clothes with intention. I wore the same neutral colors. The same flat expression. I moved through my days like a ghost haunting her own life. People noticed. They always do. "You've lost weight," someone said, concern sharpening their voice. "You don't laugh anymore," another observed, like it was a strange new habit. I wanted to scream that I'd left my laughter on a couch in a winter-lit apartment, curled up beside the woman I loved. Instead, I smiled thinly and told them I was fine. I wasn't. I looked like death because something inside me had stopped fighting. Every night, I reached for my phone. Every night, I stopped myself. Bella had asked for space without knowing it. I had demanded it out loud. Either way, silence became the law between us, and I followed it like a sentence I believed I deserved. But grief doesn't care about rules. It shows up in your posture, in your eyes, in the way your hands shake when no one is looking. By the end of the week, I barely recognized myself. And the worst part? I still believed leaving her was the right thing. That belief hurt more than the loneliness, because it meant I was choosing pain over hope. Again. Chapter 6, Bella's POV. The apartment stayed quiet. Not peaceful. Not calm. Just emptied. I stopped setting 2 mugs out in the morning. Not because I didn't think of her, but because the second mug felt like an accusation. I poured my coffee and drank it standing up, leaning against the counter like sitting might undo me. Work became a refuge and a blur. I drafted without noticing the hours pass. Lines precise. Movements automatic. It was easier to focus on things that obeyed rules. Buildings didn't leave. Structures didn't change their minds. I did. I stopped using the couch. It felt wrong to sit there alone, the fabric still remembering her shape. I took my laptop to the dining table instead, back straight, shoulders tight, as if comfort were something I no longer deserved. The shampoo bottle remained untouched in the shower. Lavender hung in the air, faint and cruel. I considered changing it. Something unscented. Something neutral. I couldn't. Her room stayed closed. I passed it every day, eyes fixed forward, pretending it was just another door. Pretending my chest didn't tighten every time I walked by. I knew exactly what it would smell like in there. Clean cotton. Her perfume, subtle and warm. The ghost of her presence pressing in on all sides. I didn't sleep. When I did sleep, I dreamed she was beside me, breathing steady, arm thrown carelessly over my waist. I always woke with my heart racing and the unbearable awareness of space where she should have been. People messaged, checked in, asked how I was doing. I told them I was fine. Introverts are good at shrinking, at making themselves small enough that their pain doesn't inconvenience anyone else. But grief has weight. It settles in your bones, slows your movements, turns everyday tasks into negotiations. I caught my reflection one afternoon and barely recognized myself. My eyes looked dull, hollow, like I was watching the world through glass. I'd lost weight without meaning to. Food had become a chore, something I remembered to do only when my hands started shaking. I wondered if Blake looked like this too. The thought startled me. I imagined her somewhere else, sleeping in a bed that wasn't hers, forcing herself through days that felt wrong. I imagined her choosing silence the same way I was. Carefully. Out of love. My phone stayed within reach at all times. I never touched it. Some nights, I sat on my bed with it in my hands, unlocked, staring at her name until my eyes burned. I told myself I was respecting her request, giving her time, doing the right thing. The truth was simpler and more damning. I was afraid. Afraid that if I spoke, I would destroy what little chance remained. Afraid that my love, once exposed, would be too much. Too late. Too selfish. So, I stayed quiet. And somewhere deep inside me, something began to understand a terrible thing. Silence was no longer protecting us. It was killing us. Chapter 7. Bella, the Collapse. I forgot the blueprint. That alone should have terrified me. The project had been weeks in the making. Final revisions complete. Client presentation scheduled. It was the kind of deadline my body used to anticipate before my mind even caught up. But the day passed without urgency. Coffee replaced meals. Again. My hands shook slightly as I poured the second cup, then the third. Sleep had become something I postponed indefinitely. There was always one more adjustment to make. One more line to perfect. One more reason not to stop. Stopping meant thinking. By the end of the week, my head felt packed with cotton. Sounds came from far away. My vision tunneled, edges soft and dim. I told myself I was fine. I told myself I'd rest after delivery. The blueprint sat untouched on my drafting table. The email came mid-morning. Hey Bella, the client is asking about the final files. Did you send them? I stared at the screen, confused. Send them? My heart stuttered. I turned slowly toward the studio. The paper lay there, pristine and damning. Oh, I whispered. That was the last thing I remember clearly. The room tilted. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just enough that my body seemed to lose its argument with gravity. The coffee mug slipped from my fingers and shattered somewhere distant. I tried to steady myself, reaching for the table, but my arm felt wrong. Heavy. Unresponsive. My knees buckled. The floor rose up to meet me. I woke to voices. Urgent. Panicked. Too loud. Bella? Bella, can you hear me? Hands on my shoulders. Someone calling my name again and again, fear threading through their voice. A colleague. I recognized them dimly, kneeling beside me, phone pressed to their ear. She didn't answer calls. I came to pick up the blueprints and found her like this. She's cold. She's barely responsive. Cold. That seemed wrong. Lights followed. Sirens. Someone asking when I last ate. When I last slept. I tried to answer, but the words tangled, slipping away before they reached my mouth. At the hospital, everything moved too fast. For lines. Monitors. The antiseptic smell sharp enough to sting. A doctor speaking carefully, firmly, like someone used to delivering bad news wrapped in calm. Severe dehydration. Malnutrition. Sleep deprivation. Her body essentially shut down. I drifted in and out, the world flickering at the edges. At one point, I heard a nurse say, "She's lucky she was found when she was." Lucky. The word landed strangely. All I could think was that Blake should have been there. That she would have known. That she would have noticed the signs I'd ignored. That she would have scolded me gently while holding my face in her hands, telling me I wasn't allowed to disappear like this. The thought hurt more than the 4 in my arm. As consciousness pulled me under again, one truth surfaced, sharp and undeniable. Silence had almost killed me. Chapter 8. Blake's POV, the apartment. I came back 2 days later. I told myself it was just to grab clothes. To check the place. To breathe air that didn't feel borrowed. The hallways smelled the same. The elevator creaked the same. Everything conspired to pretend the world hadn't shifted. I unlocked the door. The apartment felt wrong. Not empty. Not quiet. Disturbed. The coffee table was off-center. A chair lay tipped on its side. Paper scattered near the studio doorway like someone had dropped a handful of thoughts and never picked them up again. For one terrible second, my mind went somewhere violent. I stepped inside, heart thudding hard enough to make my vision pulse. "Bella," I called. My voice echoed back to me, thin and useless. I dropped my bag. The kitchen was chaos. A mug shattered on the floor, dried coffee staining the tiles like a shadow that wouldn't wash away. The smell was bitter and stale. Unfinished. "Bella," I said again, louder now. Nothing. Panic didn't arrive all at once. It crept. Slow and cold, threading through my chest, tightening with every unanswered step. I moved through the apartment, room by room, checking corners that made no sense to check. The couch. The bathroom. Her closed studio door. Empty. My hands were shaking when I reached for my phone. I called her. It rang. Once. Twice. Then voicemail. I hung up and tried again, like repetition could change the outcome. Voicemail. "No, no, no," I muttered, pacing, dragging a hand through my hair. I texted. "Bella, I'm home. Where are you?" The message stayed gray. Not delivered. My stomach dropped. Her battery was dead. Or her phone wasn't with her. Both options felt wrong. I stood in the middle of the apartment, surrounded by the quiet wreckage of a life interrupted, and felt something in me finally give. I noticed the little things then. The untouched shampoo bottle in the bathroom. The empty fridge except for coffee creamer and half a loaf of bread. The blueprint still on her drafting table, edges curling slightly, like it had been waiting. Waiting for me. My chest tightened painfully. "Bella," I whispered, softer now. Like saying it gently might summon her. The silence pressed in. I fumbled for my phone and started calling everyone I could think of. Her sister. Straight to voicemail. Colleagues. Friends. Anyone who might know something I didn't. Each unanswered call felt like another door closing. I sank onto the couch, hands clenched together, bouncing my knee without realizing it, tears leaving my eyes like it's sneaking out. This was my fault. Leaving. Staying silent. The leaving distance was mercy. The apartment didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a warning I'd ignored. And somewhere in the city, Bella was out there. Alone. Chapter 9. Blake's POV, The Search. The apartment felt too small for the size of my fear. I couldn't sit, couldn't stand still. Every surface I passed carried a ghost of her. The arm of the couch where she always perched sideways. The counter where she leaned when she drank her coffee standing up. The door frame she brushed with her shoulder without realizing it. I kept moving like if I stopped, the truth would catch up to me. I called her sister again. Voicemail. I left a message this time, my voice breaking halfway through. Please. It's Blake. I need to know where Bella is. Call me back. I hung up and immediately regretted the way I sounded. Too desperate. Too late. My phone buzzed in my hand. A message. Not from who I needed. I swiped it away and felt something hot and sharp rise behind my eyes. I went back into the studio. The blueprint still lay on the table, weighted down by a ruler like she'd planned to come back to it in 5 minutes. There were notes in the margins in her careful handwriting. Small, precise, controlled. Bella had always been careful. I picked up the page and pressed it flat against my chest without realizing I was doing it. Where are you? I whispered into the empty room. My imagination betrayed me. Every possible answer bloomed and rotted in my head at the same time. Hospital. Police station. Some quiet place where she'd gone to be alone because I'd made her feel like she had to disappear. My phone buzzed again. This time I almost dropped it. A number I didn't recognize. I answered before I could think. Hello. Is this Blake Hayden? Yes, I said, too fast. Yes, this is Blake. This is Emily from Calder and Company. I work for Bella. I'm so sorry to bother you, but I found your number in her emergency contact list. My heart slammed so hard it stole my breath. Is she okay? I asked. There was a pause. A terrible, careful pause. She collapsed 2 days ago. We called an ambulance. She's at St. Mary's. The room tilted. I reached for the table and missed. My hand closed around air before I caught myself. 2 days, I repeated. The words didn't make sense. She's been there for 2 days? Yes. Her sister is listed as her main contact, but we couldn't reach her. I thought. Thank you, I cut in, already moving, grabbing my jacket, my keys, anything within reach. Thank you for calling me. I am on my way. I didn't remember hanging up. The elevator took too long. The street felt too loud. Every car that passed me was an obstacle instead of a thing. I ran. Not elegantly. Not carefully. I ran like someone who had finally admitted she was out of time. In the taxi, my knee bounced uncontrollably. The driver glanced at me in the mirror, concern flickering across his face. Hospital, I said. St. Mary's. He nodded and pulled into traffic. My hands were shaking so badly I had to press them together to keep them still. I stared out the window at the city blurring past, my reflection ghosted over everything I couldn't focus on. 2 days. 2 days while she lay in a hospital bed and I'd been sleeping in someone else's spare room, convincing myself silence was kindness. My phone buzzed again. Her sister this time. I answered, breathless. Blake. Yes. I'm on my way. I'm going to see her now. There was relief in her exhale. She's stable, her sister said. But she scared everyone. She scared me. She scared me too, I whispered. The taxi slowed near the hospital. I paid without counting the change and bolted out, the building rising in front of me like a verdict. At the doors, I stopped. Just for a second. Because once I walked in, I couldn't pretend anymore. Once I saw her, I would have to face the truth I'd been running from since the day I left. I loved her. And I almost lost her because I was too afraid to say it. I pushed the doors open. Chapter 10. Blake's POV. The hospital room. The doors slid open with a hiss, sterile air hitting me like a slap. And there she was. Bella. Lying on the bed. Pale. Unmoving. Black hair splayed across the pillow. A thin hospital gown clinging to her small frame, frail in a way I'd never allowed myself to notice before. The monitors beeped softly, a rhythm that mocked the beat of my own heart. I froze. Somewhere deep in my chest, a voice whispered, "This is your fault." God, I have never been this scared in my life. Every careful choice I had made, every ounce of distance as kindness, came back to me in waves of nausea and grief. I had left her. I had stayed silent. I had convinced myself that love could survive absence, that she would be fine. And now she wasn't. I crossed the room in a few hurried, stumbling steps. My hands shook, reaching for her. Reaching but not daring to touch. Not wanting to wake her. Not wanting to see her fragile chest rise with the wrong rhythm. "I'm so sorry, Bells," I whispered. My voice cracked. "This is all my fault." A nurse glanced at me and nodded gently, stepping back. Her eyelids fluttered once, then still. Stillness so complete it felt like the world had stopped just for her. Tears burned the back of my eyes. I wanted to curl into myself, to collapse onto the floor beside her, to make some kind of penance for leaving her alone. I should have been there, I breathed, voice low and ragged. I should have seen it. I should have. My hands gripped the edge of the bed, fingernails pressing into the sheets. Every heartbeat, every shallow breath, screamed a truth I had avoided for too long. I love her. Love her fiercely. Love her silently. And now that love was mingled with guilt so sharp it threatened to cleave me in two. The monitor beeped steadily, innocent, indifferent. Bella's chest rose and fell in the rhythm of a fragile life. And I hated myself for ever believing that my absence was mercy. I sank to my knees beside the bed. "I love you," I whispered. So quietly, so brokenly, I wasn't sure if anyone could hear. "I love you. I should have told you. I should have been here." Her hand twitched once under the covers. A small, fragile movement. And I clutched it as though holding on could undo every mistake I had made. "I'm here now," I murmured, pressing my forehead to her arm. "I won't leave again. Not ever." Somewhere in the sterile hospital room, I felt the world tighten and shrink around her, around me, around this moment that I had waited too long to live and nearly lost everything because of fear. Chapter 11. Bella's POV, Awakening. Light seeped in around the edges of my eyelids, too sharp, too bright. My head throbbed, every thought slow and heavy like wading through water. I tried to move, and my body reminded me sharply that it had been betrayed by neglect, by hunger, by exhaustion. Where am I? The room was quiet, sterile. Beeping machines, soft and rhythmic, unlike the apartment I knew. Panic started its low crawl up my spine. A shadow stirred nearby. I blinked. On the chair beside the bed, head bowed, body curled around itself like it had been waiting there for an eternity. Blake. Her dark hair fell forward, obscuring her face. One arm hung limply over the armrest. She breathed unevenly, in the slow, heavy rhythm of someone who hadn't slept properly in days. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. That this wasn't real. That any second I'd wake up in the apartment, sunlight spilling through our curtains, Blake smirking at me over her coffee mug, hair messy, perfect, infuriatingly alive. But the smell, sterile, sharp, faintly antiseptic, told me otherwise. This was real. I wanted to speak, but my throat was a desert. My mouth barely moved. Her hand twitched slightly. She stirred, murmured something in her sleep, and I felt my chest tighten. Blake had stayed. She had been here. Watching. Waiting. My lips moved soundlessly. Blake. Her eyes didn't open. She breathed, slow and uneven, still curled into that chair. A memory surfaced, the blueprint, the coffee, the collapse. My body remembered the neglect I'd inflicted on myself, and the ache of fear and regret for dragging her into it. I tried again, whispering, "Blake, you're here." A small sigh, a shifting of weight, and finally her eyes cracked open, just slightly, blinking against the light. Recognition dawned slowly, confusion washing over her features. "Bella," she murmured, voice hoarse. barely above a whisper. I swallowed, my throat tight. My gaze drifted over her, the exhaustion etched into her face, the sharp lines of worry that had replaced the easy smiles she once wore. My heart ached, caught somewhere between relief, guilt, and longing. "Yes," she whispered back. "I'm here." Blake's eyes softened, dark pools of something unspoken, hovering between apology, fear, and love. Her head tilted, barely perceptible, and a tremor ran through her body. You were worried," I said, my voice shakier than I expected. Her lips twitched in a faint, almost imperceptible grimace. "I always am," she admitted. The words hung between us, fragile and heavy. Neither of us dared to move closer, both knowing that the smallest gesture could ignite everything we'd held back for years. For a moment, all that existed was the quiet room, our ragged breathing, and the unspoken confession that had finally found its place in the air between us. I reached carefully, like stepping on glass. My fingers brushed hers. She didn't pull away. And in that touch, the world contracted to the two of us. Everything else, the panic, the hospital, the chaos, vanished. For the first time in days, I believed maybe, just maybe, we could survive the silence we'd both carried too long. Chapter 12, Hospital Room. The first words. Blake's shoulders sagged as she straightened, rubbing her face with the heels of her hands. Her gaze lingered on me like she'd been replaying my collapse on loop in her mind. I should have been there," she whispered. Voice tight. Raw. "I should have noticed. I should have stopped this before it happened." I swallowed hard, my body still weak, my heart pounding. "Blake, no. You didn't do this. It's not your fault." Her eyes, wide and haunted, flicked to mine. "It is. I left you. I stayed away. I thought I was doing the right thing. But God, Bella, I could have saved you if I'd just been there." I shook my head slowly, trying to force my voice steady. "Blake, it's not your fault. You couldn't have known." Her gaze dropped. Hands pressed against her face. "But I should have. I should have called. Checked in. Done something. Anything. And I didn't. I let my fear, my damn pride, hurt you." I shifted slightly on the bed, fragile and careful. You didn't hurt me," I said softly. My voice cracked a little. I'm sorry for worrying you. I scared you, didn't I?" Her head shot up, eyes wide. "Worried? Bella." I pressed my lips together, shaking my head. "I scared you. I wasn't careful. I wasn't thinking. She exhaled sharply, tension threading every muscle. "Bella, you were unconscious. 2 days. You could have." I held up a hand, almost pleading. "Blake, stop. It's fine. I'm okay now. Really. You can't blame yourself for this. I wasn't taking care of myself, not you. I scared you, and I'm so sorry for that." Her hands fell to her knees. She pressed them together, knuckles white. The guilt radiated off her like heat. I never want to see you like that again," she murmured. I nodded slowly, voice barely audible. "I know. I don't want you to blame yourself." A pause hung between us. Heavy. Dense. Words left unsaid crowding the space. The love neither of us dared name. The fear that both of us had carried silently for years. Blake's eyes searched mine, desperate for a hint of the truth. She averted my gaze, pressing a hand lightly against the bed to steady herself. I didn't mean to make you worry," I said again, softer this time. I just wanted to be okay for you. For both of us." Her chest rose and fell ragged. She finally leaned back in her chair, head bowed. The words faded, leaving only silence heavy enough to suffocate. Neither of us spoke of love. Not yet. But the tension hung, vibrating between us like a wire stretched too tight, ready to snap. And even in that silence, Blake's guilt and my fragile apology said more than either of us dared to voice. Chapter 13. Hospital Room. The Confession That Almost Didn't. Blake's fingers drummed restlessly on the arm of her chair. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Her voice, low and taut, trembled with the weight of everything she'd left unsaid. "I should never have written that note," she muttered. Her words were sharp but raw. I should have kept it to myself. You never should have seen it. It just made this harder. For both of us. I tried to steady my breathing, body aching from weakness, heart hammering. My lips barely moved as I whispered, almost afraid my own voice would shatter the fragile moment. I love you too, Blake." But she didn't hear me. Her hands moved, nervously twisting, patting, rubbing as though trying to erase the guilt she carried. I shouldn't have left, Bella. I thought I was doing the right thing, thinking distance would make this easier. But it only made it worse. I almost lost you. You could have. Her voice faltered. She leaned forward, elbows on knees, face in her hands, and the words tumbled out in a rush. I let my pride get in the way. I stayed away when I should have. God, Bella, I could have. The sound of my own whispered truth almost got lost in the torrent. My hand twitched, reaching out, wanting to grab her, needing her to hear me. But she rambled on, guilt spilling over, filling the sterile room with her fear. And then, her words slowed. Her pause, it caught something, a rhythm of sound, and I waited, heart thudding, breath caught somewhere between hope and terror. Her head lifted slowly, eyes widening, pupils dilated. She froze mid-breath. "Wait, what did you just say?" Blake whispered, voice trembling. I blinked, fragile and exhausted, heartbeat echoing in my ears. I love you too," I repeated, a little louder, a little clearer this time. Her hands fell from her face, slack at her sides. The chair felt too small. Her mouth opened, then closed. Nothing came out for a moment. Her gaze locked on mine, disbelief, fear, and something unnameable, all in one breathless instant. It hit her. Slowly. Brutally. That confession, the one I had held inside for years, the one I had whispered in fear and hope, was not just heard. It was returned. Her chest heaved, eyes glimmering, the faintest tremor running through her body. She looked like she might shatter, or like she might finally let herself fall into the one thing she had been avoiding for a decade, me. The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It was alive. Electric. Crawling under skin, through nerves, past every heartbeat that had ever belonged to both of us. And there, in that hospital room, surrounded by beeping machines and antiseptic light, everything we'd left unsaid for years finally began to speak. Chapter 14. The Shock. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, almost afraid to process what they'd just heard. What? Her voice cracked on each word, trembling, ragged. Hands hovering over her knees, fingers flexing and clenching as if she could squeeze the truth into some kind of manageable shape. I said, "I love you too, Blake," I repeated, voice small, fragile, but certain. Every syllable felt like a life raft tossed into a storm. Blake's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Her chest heaved, shallow and quick, like she'd been holding her breath for years and only just remembered how to inhale. This can't be," she whispered, shaking her head. Her gaze darted away, down at the floor, back at me, as if the room itself might dissolve if she dared believe. You said." "Yes," I said softly, leaning slightly forward, my hands resting on the edge of the bed. I've loved you for years. I was scared. I didn't know how. I didn't want to ruin what we had." Blake's jaw went rigid. Her hands gripped the arms of the chair. I thought you know. No, you can't. I can't believe. She pressed a hand to her face, trembling. I left. I ran. I thought. I thought you wouldn't. You wouldn't feel the same. That I would ruin everything if I know, I said softly. My own fingers twitched, wanting to reach out, to bridge the space between us. I know, Blake. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't want to lose you either. She froze, eyes locked on mine, pupils dilated with disbelief, guilt, and something raw and unguarded that had been buried for years. The silence stretched, thick and trembling. I can't, she whispered again, voice breaking. You really mean that? Yes, I breathed. I do. I've always meant it. Her hands fell to her lap. Her breath caught. For a long moment, she simply stared, as if trying to convince herself that what she was hearing was real. That I was real. Then she exhaled slowly, almost inaudibly, a mixture of relief and shock, and sank deeper into her chair, as if the weight of her own feelings and mine was finally settling, and for the first time, she didn't resist it. The room hummed with unspoken truth. The air between us thickened, vibrating with everything we had kept hidden for a decade. And in that moment, Blake realized the heart she had tried to protect by leaving had been waiting for her all along. Chapter 15: The Reckoning. Blake sat frozen in the chair for a long moment, the weight of disbelief still pinning her in place. Her gaze flicked to me, searching, trembling, afraid. She whispered, voice cracking, I don't want to. I can't. I might. Her words faltered, and I saw it, the raw, brittle fear behind her pride. Fear she would hurt me. Fear she would shatter what little strength I had left. Slowly, almost painfully, she stood. Legs shaky, fingers gripping the arms of the chair like she was climbing out of a nightmare. She hesitated, then in one deliberate, trembling motion, climbed onto the bed beside me. My arms instinctively opened, and she collapsed against me. Her tears fell freely, wetting the thin hospital gown. I felt her trembling body press to mine, her heat, her weight, the sobs rattling through her like a storm. We're both idiots, she whispered brokenly, voice muffled against my shoulder. Her words trembled between sobs. You nearly died, just because we were too scared to admit our feelings. I held her tighter, careful, reverent. My hands tangled in her hair, fingertips brushing her damp cheeks. Shh, it's okay. You're here now. You're safe. Her body shook violently with each wordless sob. I stroked her back slowly, whispering again, I'm not going anywhere, Blake. I swear. Never again. She lifted her head slightly, tear-streaked eyes meeting mine, and the weight of everything we had hidden for years pressed into that gaze. Despair, relief, love, fear, too many emotions for one body to hold, yet she carried them all. She breathed shakily, I thought. I thought if I stayed away, if I left, it would keep you safe. I shook my head slowly, voice quiet, certain. Blake, you don't get to decide that. We have to face it. Together. Always. Her forehead pressed against my chest, wet hair brushing my collarbone. Her tears soaked into the fabric of the gown, and I felt the tremor of her body under mine. I whispered again, holding her as close as I could. We survived the silence. We survived ourselves. And now, we can start from here. She let out a shuddering sigh, a mix of exhaustion and relief, finally clinging to the truth we had both feared to speak. And in that quiet hospital room, with monitors beeping softly around us, we finally let the years of restraint and fear dissolve into touch, warmth, and trembling confession. Chapter 16: Hospital Room. The First Kiss. I felt her shudder against me, and slowly, impossibly, she lifted her head. Tear-streaked eyes met mine, glimmering with a mixture of fear, longing and disbelief. Her lips trembled, just slightly, and I leaned closer without thinking, letting the gravity of the moment pull us together. I so desperately want to kiss you, she whispered, voice raw, fragile, almost a confession in itself. A laugh escaped me. Soft, shaky, half relief, half disbelief. It broke through the tension, and I shook my head against hers, still crying, still trembling. We. She pressed a hand to my cheek, guiding me, grounding me. Just kiss me, she murmured. I closed the distance, careful, hesitant, as if moving too fast might shatter the fragile bubble of reality around us. And then, finally, my lips met hers, tentative, trembling, soft. It was nothing like the dreams I'd held for years. It was everything. It was desperate, tender, fearful, and warm all at once. Her lips pressed against mine, answering in kind, the heat of her touch burning through all the guilt, the fear, the silence. I let a shaky breath slip through, and she did too. Our foreheads rested together, noses brushing, breaths mingling. The world outside the hospital room didn't exist. It had never mattered. Only her. Only this. Her hands clung to me, trembling as mine moved to cup her face, hold her as close as I could without crushing her. Each second stretched like a lifetime, slow and sacred. When we finally parted, just slightly, our foreheads still touching, I laughed through my tears, shaky, breathless. God, Bella, you're insane. She smiled faintly, shaky but radiant, pressing her lips to mine once more, this time, slightly more assured, a promise of what was to come. And for the first time in 10 years, everything we'd been too scared to say was finally spoken in one soft, trembling kiss. Our lips met again, slower this time, more certain, and the room seemed to shrink around us. Every breath, every heartbeat, every tremble of her body pressed closer into mine. I felt her fingers clutch at my shirt, pulling me closer, desperate to anchor herself, and I responded the only way I could, my arms wrapped around her, cradling her fragile form as if holding her could undo the past 10 years of fear and silence. Her tears dampened my cheeks, her breath mingled with mine, and the kiss deepened. Not frantic, not hurried, but fierce in its tenderness, in its honesty, in the truth that had been waiting for far too long. Finally, we pulled back just slightly, foreheads resting together, breaths ragged, hearts hammering in sync. She looked up at me wide-eyed, shaky, a ghost of a smile breaking through the remnants of tears. I brushed a wet strand of hair from her face, voice soft, shaky, but laced with certainty. Now you get better, I whispered, trembling, my lips barely brushing hers again. And come home. We have a lot of time to catch up on. Her eyes flickered with that fragile, tentative hope, the kind that had been buried under years of fear and silence. And for the first time, I let myself believe it. That the world could wait. That we could finally step into the life we'd been too afraid to admit we wanted all along. Her lips pressed to mine once more. A promise, a beginning, a soft, trembling declaration that the past was over and the time for us had finally come. Chapter 17, Hospital, Healing and Homecoming. The days blurred together, soft and slow, filled with the quiet rhythm of care. Blake never left my side. She sat in the chair beside my bed, a constant presence, murmuring reminders, brushing damp hair from my face, and holding my hand whenever I stirred or whimpered in the haze of weakness. She became my anchor, my warmth, my quiet insistence that the world was still worth holding on to. I learned again how to breathe, how to eat, how to move without fear. Blake was patient, endlessly patient, her eyes soft and careful as she guided me back to strength. She laughed softly at my stubbornness, teased me when I tried to rush, scolded me gently when I tried to hide my discomfort. But mostly, she just stayed. Watching. Waiting. Loving without words, with hands, with presence. When the doctors finally cleared me for discharge, Blake's eyes filled with relief. Finally, she whispered, brushing a kiss against my temple. Finally, you can come home. The apartment felt impossibly empty and familiar at the same time. Everything smelled the same, our shared life, but now it felt different. Alive. Charged. Because Blake was there. Blake would not leave. Blake had taken my hospital bag upstairs, and I shuffled slowly behind her, weak but steady, leaning on her when necessary. When we reached my room, Blake paused at the doorway. She glanced around, eyes soft, then turned to me. I'm moving in here, she said, voice gentle but firm. I'm staying with you. No arguments. I want to be close. Always. I tried to protest weakly. Blake, you don't have to. I do, she interrupted, her lips twitching with the ghost of a smile. You nearly killed me with worry before you nearly killed yourself. I'm not taking chances. You're mine now. I couldn't help but laugh softly, despite the frailty of my body. My heart thudded, a strange mix of relief, love, and disbelief. Mine? Always, she whispered, stepping inside and pulling the chair close to my bed. Her hands brushed mine, and she sat, careful not to crush me, but impossibly close. Close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her, the weight of her presence grounding me. I leaned back, letting myself sink into the comfort, into the quiet intimacy of her being. Blake watched me, protective and tender, a guardian of my fragile recovery, a keeper of my heart. Days passed like this, soft, slow, filled with whispered conversations, quiet laughter, gentle scolds, and hands that never let go. She helped me relearn how to live, how to sleep, how to eat properly, how to let myself be cared for. And in every small moment, I discovered a truth that I had long buried, that I had never been alone, not really. Blake had always been there. And now, she wasn't going anywhere. Chapter 18. The Slow Reawakening. The apartment smelled like home, but different now, like it had absorbed all the whispers, laughter, and quiet confessions of the last few weeks. Blake never left my side. She had moved into my room officially, claiming a small corner with her chair, blanket, and a stack of books she insisted I had to read. Bella, she said one morning, voice soft but insistent, leaning on the bed frame with that confident smirk that always made my chest flutter. You've been living on hospital food for weeks. I think it's time you let me make you something edible. Something real. I groaned dramatically, trying to curl deeper into the covers. Blake. I barely have the energy to move, let alone eat anything. Her eyes twinkled, playful. Oh, come on. You want me to fetch a porter to carry you around too? She reached over, nudging my shoulder with hers, the contact small but deliberate. You know you don't have to fight me. You're supposed to be healing. That's the job I've been given. I tried to look scandalized, but my lips twitched. The job of hovering? Exactly, she said, mock serious. Hovering. And making sure you don't wander off into some tragic godforsaken blueprint-induced fainting spell again. Which, by the way, nearly gave me a heart attack. I laughed softly, the sound fragile but genuine, and she grinned. That grin, wild, teasing, impossibly alive, made my chest ache in the best way. Later, she helped me up, steadying me as we walked to the kitchen. Her hand brushed mine, careful, tentative, but lingering, and I felt the warmth trail through me. She caught my slight shiver and raised an eyebrow, teasing. You're cold, she murmured, pressing her palm against mine. Don't think I didn't notice. I could only shrug, weakly, and she laughed, a low, melodic sound that filled the apartment. Look at you, she said, eyes dancing with mischief. So stubborn. So dramatic. I missed this. I missed you. I froze, heartbeat skipping. Her gaze caught mine, And I felt that old flutter, electric, teasing, dangerous. She leaned closer, lowering her voice, playful but soft. "Don't make me tickle you back to life," Arabella called her. "I might actually do it." I laughed, a little breathless, and leaned into her, letting her warmth ground me. "You'd do it, wouldn't you?" "Every single time," she said, voice low and intimate, just a whisper meant for me. She pressed a gentle kiss to the top of my head and pulled back, grinning. "See? You're alive already. Small victories." And that was the new rhythm of our days, playful, teasing, tender, filled with touches that lingered, hands that held just a little too long, glances that said everything without words. We explored this closeness cautiously, respecting the fragility, letting our love simmer and burn quietly under the surface. Every day, I felt stronger, not just physically, but in every sense. And every day, Blake reminded me, with soft words, laughter, and gentle touches, that this thus was finally allowed. Chapter 19. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks had passed, and the apartment felt alive in a way it hadn't before. The smell of coffee in the morning, soft laughter bouncing off the walls, the quiet rhythm of meals and plans. It was home again, but ours in a new, unspoken way. I was lying on the bed, sketching some designs for a small project, feeling the return of energy and focus, when I felt the bed shift beside me. Blake climbed in slowly, careful not to crush me, her presence immediate and grounding. She curled up beside me, warm, familiar, teasing energy in her eyes, but now tempered by something heavier, something real. "You're stubborn," she murmured, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Her fingers lingered, tracing my jaw, lingering too long. "You've spent 2 weeks almost killing me with worry. And now you're pretending you're back to normal." I smirked, trying to hide my heart hammering. "Almost." I said almost. Her laugh was soft, low, but it trembled. "Almost," she repeated, voice darkening slightly, eyes flicking to mine. "I think it's time we stopped pretending." I froze, heart skipping, recognizing that shift. The teasing had turned serious. Her hand cupped my face now, thumb brushing my lips. Her gaze pinned me in place, unwavering, urgent. "We've danced around this for years," she whispered. "Too scared, too stubborn, both of us idiots. But no more. Not anymore, Bella. Not after this." I swallowed, breath caught, feeling the heat of her body pressing closer. My hands moved instinctively to her, tracing her shoulders, arms, memorizing the warmth I had longed for. Her lips hovered near mine, a hair's breadth away, her breath mingling with mine. "I've wanted you for so long," she admitted, voice low, trembling with something raw and unguarded. "I don't care about the past. I don't care about the walls. I want you. Now. All of you." My own voice cracked, barely a whisper. I've always wanted you too." And that was the spark. The tension broke like lightning. Her lips captured mine fully this time, deep, hungry, but still gentle at first, letting me catch up, letting me breathe, letting me feel every suppressed longing we'd carried for a decade. Hands roamed, tentative at first, exploring the curves and planes of a body long adored, but only now fully allowed. I shivered against her touch, letting her discover me while I traced her back, memorizing the heat, the strength, the softness, the vulnerability she carried only with me. She laughed softly into the kiss, low and breathless. "You feel amazing," she murmured, voice rough with need and awe. "I could say the same about you," I breathed, fingers tangling in her hair as our mouths moved in perfect sync, discovering what we had both denied ourselves for years. The world outside ceased to exist. Time slowed. Every touch, every kiss, every shiver and sigh was amplified, a decade of longing finally unfolding in this small, sacred space. We explored each other slowly, reverently, with urgency tempered by tenderness. Every gasp, every whispered name, every hesitant sigh was a confession in itself. When we finally paused, pressed against each other, hearts hammering, bodies trembling, our foreheads together, Blake whispered, voice ragged, we don't have to hide anymore. No, I agreed softly. Not ever again. And there, in the quiet intimacy of our shared apartment, we finally let ourselves be all of what we had held back: love, longing, desire, and trust, unrestrained and absolute. Chapter 20: Discovering Fire. Blake's hands trailed along my arms, over shoulders, lingering at my waist, and I felt it immediately: the electricity, the tremor, the way every nerve in her body responded to the smallest contact. She paused mid-touch, lips hovering near mine, eyes wide, breath catching. Bella, every time you touch me, it's like fire. I can't. I watched her, pulse hammering, heart racing, and for the first time, I didn't hold back. Tentatively, at first, I pressed a finger along her jaw, letting it trail down her neck, memorizing the shiver it sparked. Blake groaned softly, leaning into me, pressing closer, as if she couldn't get enough of even the lightest caress. Her hands tangled in my hair, her mouth finding mine, desperate, hungry, a little rough, as if trying to drink in every ounce of me at once. I gasped into her lips, finally feeling safe, finally letting go. I had spent years hiding, locking away my longing, my desire, my love, but in her arms, it all melted. Hands explored, slowly, reverently. Her fingers brushed over skin, igniting heat that made me tremble. Her mouth traced my collarbone, down my neck, and every nerve in my body seemed to sing. I can't stop, she whispered, voice rough, desperate. You're everything, Bella. Every touch, every kiss. I clung to her, finally bold, finally free, letting my hands wander over the body I had longed to hold, tracing every curve, every line, memorizing her warmth and strength. Blake. I feel the same, I admitted, voice trembling. I've wanted this, all along. I'm safe here with you. Her lips found mine again, slow at first, exploring, teasing, then deepening with need. Every kiss, every gasp, every shiver built a rhythm, a symphony, as we discovered the depth of desire we had held back for so long. Blake's breath hitched as my hands traced her back, shoulders, arms. Bella, you're igniting me. I can't get enough. I'm here, I whispered against her lips, heart pounding. I'm yours. I'm completely yours. And in that moment, I let myself surrender fully, letting go of every fear, every wall, every hesitation. I kissed her with abandon, tracing her lips with mine, letting my hands and body speak all the words my voice never could. Blake groaned, pressing closer, letting herself be consumed by me, by the fire we had always hidden, now finally allowed to blaze. We moved together, slow, deliberate, tasting, touching, exploring, every sigh and shiver a confession. I had been the quiet, careful one for years, but in her arms, I discovered I could roar, I could burn, I could let desire carry me. Her laughter, soft and breathless, mingled with gasps and moans, filling the apartment with heat and intimacy. I kissed her deeply, letting her feel every inch of my longing, and for the first time, I realized I could let go because she was here. She was safe. She was mine. And Blake. Blake couldn't get enough. Every touch, every kiss, every tremor of my body drove her wild. She pressed me against her, claimed me, worshipped me with the intensity she had always hidden behind humor, wit, and restraint. I shivered, giving into it, letting the storm finally consume us, two hearts, two bodies, two souls, igniting together, fully, completely, and finally free. Chapter 21: the tender aftermath. The sunlight filtered softly through the blinds, falling across the rumpled sheets. I woke first, tangled in Blake's arms, feeling the warmth of her body wrapped around mine like a shield. Every exhale, every breath of hers against my neck, was grounding, intimate, a reminder that she was here, and she wasn't going anywhere. I traced a finger along her arm, careful, savoring the soft shiver it drew from her. She stirred, half asleep, murmuring something unintelligible, and I laughed quietly, pressing a gentle kiss to her temple. "Morning," I whispered, letting my lips linger. She hummed, eyes fluttering open, still heavy with sleep and the remnants of our night. Her lips curved in that half-smile that made my heart ache. You're already awake?" Just enough to appreciate the view, I teased softly, brushing my lips against her shoulder, feeling her shiver. She chuckled, low and breathless, nuzzling closer. "Careful, Bella. I might just fall in love with you all over again if you keep that up." I smiled, playful. "I don't mind falling," I whispered, tracing my fingers through her hair. "Especially if it's with you." She let out a soft sigh, tugging me closer until our bodies molded together perfectly. "I never realized," she murmured, voice husky, how much I needed this." "Needed you." "I know," I replied, resting my forehead against hers. "Me too." And now, we have all the time in the world. For the next hour, we stayed entwined, talking softly, laughing quietly, sharing little touches that set fire to every nerve. Fingers traced arms, shoulders, the curve of my back, each movement a silent declaration. Later, Blake fetched coffee for us both, and we sat on the couch, shoulders brushing, hands occasionally colliding, teasing smiles exchanged every time our fingers lingered too long. "You're ridiculous," she whispered when I pressed my hand to hers. "And you love it," I countered, eyes sparkling with mischief. She shook her head, laughing softly, but didn't move her hand. "Yeah, maybe I do," she admitted. As days passed, these tender moments became our rhythm. Mornings of quiet laughter, afternoons of teasing touches while cooking, evenings of shared blankets and whispered confessions. Every look, every laugh, every gentle brush of lips against skin reminded us that we had survived the fear, the silence, the past, and now we could simply be together, safely, freely, fully. Sometimes, Blake would press her forehead to mine in bed and murmur, "I could stay like this forever, just holding you." And I'd whisper back, arms tightening around her. Forever isn't long enough. Even in the quiet, post-intimacy calm, the chemistry never faded. It simmered in the soft brush of hands, the teasing of lips, the warmth of bodies pressed together. It was intense, alive, and infinitely patient, waiting only for the right moment to flare again. And in that slow, tender life, we found joy, not just in desire, but in being together, fully, wholly, completely. Chapter 22. Life Together. Blake left early for work, her briefcase in hand, suit crisp, hair perfectly pulled back, and that faint mischievous grin she always wore when she knew I was watching. "Don't overwork yourself," I called after her, teasing, though half of me already missed her presence. "I'll try not to," she replied over her shoulder, voice playful, "but you know me, I'm a professional. I might think about you anyway." I chuckled, heart warming at the thought, and shook my head. "You're impossible." Once the door closed, I returned to my drafting table. Blueprints sprawled before me, pens and pencils in hand, and a fresh cup of coffee steaming beside me. But unlike before, I wasn't lonely or nervous. The apartment still hummed with Blake's energy even in her absence, the gentle warmth she left behind, the faint trace of her perfume on my hoodie, the quiet rhythm of her voice lingering in my mind. I worked with focus, my hands steady, my mind sharp, because I knew she'd be back soon. And when she returned, evenings were ours. The first time she came back after a long day at the office, I heard the key in the lock and felt my chest jump. "Hey, you," I said, barely looking up, letting her surprise me as she entered. "Hey yourself," she said, dropping her bag, shrugging off her coat. She came over, leaned on the drafting table, and kissed the top of my head softly. "You've been at it again?" I nodded, pretending to be absorbed in a blueprint, but my fingers itched to brush hers, to feel her hand rest against mine. Blake didn't wait. Her hands found mine first, fingers entwining, and she leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to my temple. "You're beautiful when you're focused," she murmured, teasing yet tender. I smirked, heart fluttering. "Flatterer." She laughed, low and breathy, and took my face in her hands and kissed me, murmuring, "I meant it." The evenings unfolded in that rhythm, Blake by my side, sometimes draping herself across the couch or sprawled on the floor near my drafting table, flipping through files, offering playful commentary on my designs. Fingers brushed accidentally, then intentionally, teasing touches escalating as the night wore on. This line here," she murmured one evening, leaning over my shoulder, her lips brushing my ear as she pointed to a detail. "I think it needs a little more curve." I froze, shiver running down my spine. "Curve?" I asked, voice barely steady. Her breath tickled my neck. "Yeah, curve. You know, to make it perfect," she whispered, hand lingering on my arm. I laughed softly, shaking my head, letting her play her games, enjoying every teasing moment. Even work became sweeter, productive in a way it never had been before, because she was here, because we were together, because this was our life now. After dinner, we curled up on the couch, legs tangled, drinks in hand, occasionally stealing kisses, whispering about the day, sharing laughter, sharing the quiet intimacy of simply being together. Every touch, every glance, every playful murmur reminded us both we had survived the fear, the silence, the panic. And now we could live, love, laugh, and desire in our everyday, in every moment, fully. Epilogue: The Blueprint. The apartment was quiet that evening, soft golden light spilling through the blinds. Blake sat on the couch, feet tucked under her, watching me at my drafting table. I was focused, pencil in hand, tracing lines carefully, lost in the familiar rhythm of creating. "Another late-night masterpiece," she teased, voice soft, leaning against the couch cushions, eyes warm and curious. I smiled without looking up. "Maybe," I murmured. "Just something special." Hours passed in peaceful concentration. Blake's occasional murmurs of approval, soft laughter at my teasing remarks, or a casual comment about lines and angles filled the air. But I was careful, deliberate, heart racing with excitement and nerves. Finally, I set my pencil down and stepped back. Blake tilted her head, curious. "Done?" she asked, moving closer, letting her gaze sweep over the page. I nodded. "Yeah, take a look." She leaned in, squinting slightly, tracing the blueprint lines with her finger. At first, it looked like a normal design, a sleek, modern building. Then her eyes widened, breath-catching. The lines weren't random. They weren't just structure. They spelled out words. "Marry me." Blake froze, her hand hovering above the paper. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, eyes brimming with tears she didn't even try to hide. I watched her, heart pounding, a soft, nervous laugh escaping me. You did this?" she whispered, voice cracking, trembling. I nodded, stepping closer. "Every line, every curve, all for you." Blake stood abruptly, rushing to me, wrapping her arms around my neck. "Bella, you're, oh my God." Her lips pressed to mine, trembling, desperate, joyous. I want to marry you," I whispered into her ear, heart on fire, matching every tremble in hers. "I've wanted to say it for years, in every way I could." She laughed through her tears, pulling back slightly to look at me, her eyes shining like the city lights beyond the window. "You're insane," she said breathlessly. "And I love you so much." "Yes, yes, of course I will." I smiled, relief and joy crashing over me in waves. She pressed her forehead to mine, soft, intimate, perfect. And in that quiet, golden evening, with blueprints and whispered promises, laughter and tears, we sealed it, our life, our love, our forever. Marry me. It wasn't just a blueprint. It was a lifetime of hidden longing, whispered dreams, and finally, love fully realized. Some people write love letters. Some people say it out loud. I draw mine. I didn't just design a future. I found my forever. In her arms. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and like this video and follow me for more stories. You are always welcome here, and leave me a comment or a thumbs up, just letting me know if you like the story and would like more, or is there perhaps an idea that you would like to share or let me write for you.